Mr. Vice-Chancellor, on the recommendation of the Senate of the University of Guelph, it is my great privilege to present to you Simon Whitfield for the degree Doctor of Laws, honoris causa. Simon Whitfield is an entrepreneur, community builder, mentor, and one of Canada's most accomplished and decorated athletes. In the year 2000, Simon fulfilled his dream of competing in the triathlon at the Sydney Olympics, and he inspired a nation along the way. True to the Games' motto, share the spirit, dare to dream, during the last leg, a 10-kilometer run, Simon passed 24 competitors to win Olympic gold. Becoming the world's first ever triathlon gold medalist. 8 years later, he displayed the same grit and perseverance, fighting his way to a silver medal in Beijing. These accomplishments have earned him broad recognition as one of Canada's greatest Olympians. Since retiring, Simon has revealed his entrepreneurial spirit, taking his passion for sport to the business world and embarking on several new ventures. This includes co-founding Relentless Pursuit Partners, an investment and consulting firm that provides business development services for new ventures in health technology, sports, fitness, and nutrition. Simon has also been involved with many provincial and Canadian nonprofit organizations. Currently, he is an ambassador for the Canadian Men's Health Foundation and Kids Sport, where he is known as a generous and committed mentor who readily shares his knowledge and his experience with others, whether they are aspiring athletes or young children with big dreams of their own. Simon's message is compelling. The pursuit of excellence is its own reward. Set a high bar and drive towards it. For these reasons, Simon Whitfield is most deserving of an honorary degree from the University of Guelph. I now ask you, Mr. Vice-Chancellor, to confer upon Simon Whitfield the degree of Doctor of Laws, honoris causa.
By the authority of the Senate of the University of Guelph, I admit you to the degree of Doctor of Laws. Congratulations. Well done. And now I am pleased to invite Dr. Simon Whitfield to now give the convocation address.
Oh, there you are, Dr. Simon Whitfield. I just let that ring for a second. I'm not sure that I thought that would ever happen. I have many moments where I think, how did I get here? I referred to the one today at lunch, how did I get here? And I am definitely having one of those moments now. I have a fun little ranking in my head of these how did I get here moments. I had the honor of having lunch with the Queen of England, and I sat there and I thought, how did I get here and why did they give this permission? I had lunch with Sir Edmund Hillary in 2001, and now I'm here. And my parents will recall 20 years ago a certain phone call that was made from a phone booth before cell phones from Australia, from Sydney, Australia, from the University of New South Wales, where I informed my wonderful parents, Jeff and Linda, here in the front row, that I was going to defer university and move off to go race in France. And I cautioned, I held back from the phone to think, here we go, we're going to hear it. And my parents both unconditionally said, we support you. And that was an overwhelming theme through my sister Kate and my childhood, was an unconditional and unwavering support for whatever dream my sister and I had. And I hope you can relate to that as you sit there with your parents, as you sit there with your loved ones, that this unconditional support, it frees you to express yourself in such wonderful ways. It frees you to express yourself through hard work and without a focus so much on what this final outcome will be, and the tribute to the journey being so important, to what can we learn, and embracing that with this will come struggle, will come adversity, And with that struggle and adversity, you will find the texture and depth that will come with that experience and gives you a wonderful experience in your own life. It gives you experience to give unto others, as we find that not only giving unto ourselves, but giving unto others is so important. And it's a piece that I very much embrace. And to be acknowledged for that today is something very special. When I was asked if I would give the convocation speech, I immediately did what I always do when asked to do something. I go paddling. I paddled off Pender Island on Vancouver Island. I paddled off towards Active Pass, and I sat at the junction between the Trimcombe Channel and the Harrow Strait. And I had a wonderful day where it was just absolutely glass. And I got to sit on my board, and I had the timing of the BC Ferry down pat, so I knew it wasn't going to come run me over. And I sat through and I thought about that phone call many years ago that where I said to my parents, I'm going to defer university until Guelph gives me a degree. And I thought through, well, what do you say? What do you say in an event like this? And I sat with it, and I sat with it. And I thought, well, I guess I would give myself the best quotes that I heard from not only my parents, but from special people in my life that were able to embark a knowledge to me that I hope that I can share with you. Coincidentally, or as fate would have it, one of those coaches is here at the university, Dave Scott Thomas. Dave Scott Thomas ran the well-named Quack Club out of Queen's University, and I was its first member in 1991 as a 15-year-old. I showed up at Richardson Stadium, and Dave Scott Thomas taught me very quickly the difference between thinking and wanting to do something and that internal need to do something. Dave Scott Thomas helped me embark on this realization that as we commune in silence together in sport, we find common enterprise in something very special. And as you move past a university degree where everything has been in a certain ritual, in a certain routine, and a lot of that routine revolves around that deep contemplation of a problem. Well, how will I find my way through this? I encourage you, as I have had to do myself, is find that ritual of routine around contemplation. As Dave said, that silent communion with others, there's great power in this as we share in something together. And Dave understood that for sport. He understood that coming together, working together, in a space where you're all focused and contemplating that common goal is very important. And as we move past, and I've been in my own transition from the last 4 years away from sport into what's next, finding time for that contemplation, as Dave would say, that silent communion with yourself is very important. I thought of the next person I thought of was my wonderful mom, my mom Linda. The common theme from mom to my sister and I was always pay attention to your inner narrative, your inner dialogue being so important. And my mom would always, if I was embarking on something where I was saying, this is happening and that's happening, mom would always pull me back to say, careful that internal narrative. She would give me a choice between being an intrepid, inquisitive, benevolent wise man or a critical, ruthless pessimist. Which one do you think gives better advice, gives better counsel and contemplation? I'll go with the intrepid, inquisitive, benevolent wise man. As is we think, we become, this being the eternal mystery. As is you think, as what you think about, how you refer to yourself, that internal narrative, where it is that your mind goes when in a situation of struggle, when you're in a situation of stress. Do you embrace it? Do you find the positive? Are you benevolent? Are you open-hearted? Or do you come down on yourself? Do you expect, do you fear the worst? Are you afraid of failure? I felt that during my career as I was around other athletes, I could really tell the difference between those athletes that embraced a challenge and those who were afraid of failure. I was afraid of not giving of myself the full effort that would find in it the success I was looking for. I was never afraid of failure. My dad had this truly wonderful expression that my dad would pull me aside and he would say, don't try and get rid of those butterflies. Just make them fly in formation. I love this. It's a simple thing. It's a playful thing. It's a thing that a kid can really grasp onto in a very, very young age. And I have 2 young daughters. I have an 8-year-old daughter named Pippa and then a 5-year-old Evelyn. And they know this expression intimately. Don't get rid of the butterflies. Just make them fly in formation. Dad was giving me permission to use that nervousness as energy, to use that energy to drive me forward. Dad was giving me permission to not be afraid, to not say that to expect a failure, but to expect success and trust in my own self-efficacy that I could rely on myself to come forward. You all know about this. You have this self-efficacy. You have this eternal belief that got you to where you are, and it will carry you forward. Don't try and get rid of the butterflies. Just make them fly in formation. My parents gave me this wonderful freedom too, because they gave me this understanding that when I came home from a race, they would never say to me, "How did you do?" They would say, "How did you give a great effort?" This left me unencumbered by the fear of the results and more immersed in this energy, in this commitment to excellence that came through hard work. I spoke to a hockey player recently, and he said that every day, before every game, he would listen to "Old Man, Look at Me Now." He was driven by this fear of his dad, by this fear of what could happen if he failed. "Look at me, I'm proving to you." And I felt honored, I felt privileged that Dad gave me permission to express myself in sport through hard work. My parents gave me this wonderful expression of sport as an art, not as a final destination, but as a journey. And the hockey player said to me that the day he stopped doing that, he started scoring more goals. He released himself from that tension, from that pressure, from that fear of failure to the embracing success. My dad and I had a wonderful, my favorite moment with my dad was, it was at the Beijing Olympics. And I crossed the line in second place. I got a silver medal. And I had that initial feeling of like, what just happened? I just about won. I could have had another Olympic gold. And I look over and I'm struggling with them. I'm in this momentary struggle, and I look over and there's my dad hanging over the sideline. And I come over for the hug, and he says, "Bloody brilliant." He's an Aussie, so he's bloody brilliant. And he says, "You've just learned the poetry of sport." And I said, "Okay." And Dad said, 8 years ago, you ran down a German who went on to inspire a young German who 8 years later got you back. Welcome to the poetry of sport." That wonderful moment released his son from any burden of wondering what could have been, to just celebrate what is. And I'll leave you with that. There's a wonderful Leonard Cohen quote that says, "Ring the bells that still can ring. Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in." Don't compare yourself. Ring the bells that still can ring. Do not compare to what could have been, what should have been, what was. Be in the present, be in the moment. That poetry of sport, Dad, let me embrace that moment. Let me embrace something that happened and let me find the joy in it, the poetry of sport. And now I look for that in everything. I look for the poetry in everything. I'm not looking for the success, for the markers of a position. I'm looking for what the poetry was in it. What's the theater? What was the wonderful story here? The second part of that is, there's a crack in everything. That's where the light gets in. And I'll leave you with that. Be vulnerable. You embark on this next chapter, and I know all about this. You embark on this next chapter and you feel like you have to be perfect. You have to embark on it with everything pushed forward. You have to show your brightest side. But as I look through my Olympic career, the trend is overwhelmingly there, that when I embraced others, when I sat in that communion with others and I involved them and empowered them, when everyone understood their role and we all played as a team, I found success. And when I assigned roles, when I orchestrated, when I stood over top of people and said, "Just do your job," it didn't happen. Empower others and by being vulnerable. I like the expression, and it's my own. In comparison, we lose sight. Life is perfect as it is what it is. Congratulations on your journey. Congratulations on this. We get to wear these beautiful robes. And thank you so much for having me. You fulfilled a 20-year-old dream of finally having a degree.